Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to the live stream. I'm Dr. David Phelps, and I am thrilled to be hosting with three of my really good friends. We're all part of a community called Freedom Founders. We all happen to be doctors, dentists. Don't let that scare you, because while everybody here is very accomplished in their technical field of expertise, I will tell you, we all are on a journey together. We all have been working on what I would call part of our subject today, which is the book I wrote, and I'll give you a little bit on that, but it's What's Your Next? The Blueprint for Creating Your Freedom Lifestyle. And what I want to talk to you gentlemen about is what I think what we all have discovered and are continuing to discover in our own lives, and that is the first mountain that we decide to climb. And I use mountains as in my alliterations many times, but we get to school, or we're going to school, right? And we have this dream about who we want to be, and we've been blessed like so many people with different skill sets. Everybody's got different skill sets, but you go to school, you get training in certain expertise, and you get certified, or you get the degrees, and you go out in the world, and it's great, right? It's exhilarating because you're going to go do this thing that you learn how to do, and we start families, and we want to have this autonomy and this freedom to live life to its fullest. And I call that the first mountain peak. And for me, and I'll let you guys weigh in, but for me, that first mountain peak that I looked up and saw was really very self-centered. Now, I don't mean it was all about me in terms of that I wanted to have this amazing, great lifestyle, and I wanted to have fast cars and big lifestyle. That wasn't really me, but really it was about I wanted to create this security for me and my family. I wanted to make sure everything was good, and I wanted to put this protective moat around everything. And the problem that I saw in that is that chase was never finished. That mountain just kept going and going and going until one day I realized I was getting close to that mountain peak, and then I looked around and go, wait a minute, is this all there was to it? I mean, I don't feel like I'm done. And what I saw was, I'm on the wrong mountain peak. It was the one over there. that 14er over there was the one I was actually supposed to be on. So what am I doing over here? That's kind of my analogy of what I see in What's Our Next. So I just kind of want to go around the table here and talk to you guys, because I know that you guys believe the same thing. And what I don't like to see people think about is you have to do everything in life sequentially. In other words, yes, in school, you go to school sequentially to get the degree, the license, the permission to go do your work, right? And then we do that. And they say, well, now next we need to, let's pay off all our debts. Let's be very Dave Ramsey-esque. Let's pay off all the debts. Yep, okay. And now we'll save up for college. And all those things are important, right? And then someday, I'll start living my life. Someday, then when I get all this other stuff right, then I'll actually start making some memories with my family. Right now, I got to work. I got to put in the time. I got to make this stuff happen. And we never give ourselves permission to really explore like we explore when we were kids, when we have this curiosity, and our parents actually had to tether us back sometimes because we go running off, right? And what society and education kind of says, this is the way you do it. This is who you are. You got this degree, you got this education. Now you're this. Now you got to be this. You got to follow these rules and follow this guideline that says this is the way you run your life. And what I found, and I know you guys have found too, is that you don't have to do everything sequentially. Yes, we have to work hard. Yes, we need to provide for our families. Yeah, very important, very important. But what about the exploration, the thinking about, well, who do we really want to become to have more? Not what do we need to do to have more. Who do we need to become to have more? So let me go around the curve here. And Greg, let me go to you first, sir. Now I know you and Jackie, your wonderful wife Jackie, you've always found in your heart this really great desire to serve other people. I know obviously you've served people in your practice. I mean, those are your clients, your patients. But even outside that, you've always had this heart, and you've been doing this for many years. Talk a little bit about that and how that's allowed you guys to really see what your next is, even though you have sold your practice and you're completely out of dentistry now.
Yeah, David, thank you. Jackie and I, we knew dentistry was a great vehicle that got us to where we wanted. What we realized is we didn't have a real balance in life. And so by getting near the end, we looked at this and we said, what is it we love to do? We mentor within the practice, outside of the practice. How many years do we need to keep doing it that way? And is there another way to do it? And for us, that's really what we found by freeing up our time and freeing up that commitment to the chair. It's really allowed us that freedom, even when we're here in our Palm Springs home, to mentor to different people that really we would have never had access to before. So it's really opened up a total new life for us, all because we decided to do it a little bit different way because I was on that wheel forever. Then one day Jackie said, hey, our employees are taking a lot more time than us. What are we going to do about that? So once we realized that, we said, all right, there's got to be another way. What is that way? And fortunately, we found Freedom Founders. So that's our journey.
Greg, what does it do for you and Jack when you did carve out that time to actually serve other people? It's hard to do that when we're on that first trying to climb that first mountain peak, because as I said, for myself, it was all about self. I didn't have time to give. I didn't think I had time to give anybody else. I didn't have time to explore any other skill sets or passions because it was just all about this great drive I had. When you took the time to actually mentor those other younger couples that you were doing, what did that do for you and Jackie? How did that allow you to become different people, even though you weren't through with your career by any means? You weren't through with active income at that point. But what did it do for you as you're exploring your next in life?
You always know if your bucket is not full, it's really hard to share, right? If you're depleted and you're exhausted because you're on this treadmill, you have something to give, but what we have found is by getting to this end and getting to this point, I don't call it an end, our next, what it's done is we're so full of energy, so much to share. And what we witness is people looking at us and say, hey, how did you do this? How are y'all so happy? How do you have so much energy to go do this and help us? And it's changed everything. I mean, it's where I used to fear what's next. Now it's like, oh my gosh, how did I ever have time to work? Because we are so busy with all the rest that we do. So.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. If you just jumped on today, we're talking about the book that is going to launch out February 23rd, a book called What's Your Next? This is a book that was 12 months in the work, and really the inspiration for me to write this book was a lot of the lessons I learned, not only in my own life, but having the blessing to work with people like you. I say work with you because this is a journey you do together. This isn't a journey where one person has it all figured out. This is a journey like most things in life. And now Ben and Jim, I know you'll second me what I'm saying is, we're social people, and we want to do things, together with people that we have some affinity for and people we enjoy being with. There's this, Ben, I'm going to go to you next. There's this, as I was talking about earlier, there's this drive that says, we need to do things sequentially in life. We got to get all these certain steps, in place before we can do the next thing and the next thing, whatever that might be, towards that end goal for most of society is, retirement. So I just got to get to retirement. I just got to get to that point. And there's a financial piece to that, of course, right? So getting to retirement, people think, well, I've got to have enough saved up, or I got to have a pension plan or some kind of investments that will provide to let me do that. So that's number one. But the second piece that I find is so interesting is that many people, even though they may reach the financial place where they can, let go, is they haven't really taken time to consider what is their next. I mean, I talk to dentists who have done very well in their career and they're ready to sell the practice and move on. And yet I ask them, so what are you going to do next? And it's like, I'm not sure. See, to me, these steps that we get to go through in life, if we consider what's our next, it's not a one-day event. It's not a one-week event. It's not a timing of one thing has to happen. It's got to be a process. It's got to be something that you allow yourself to go through this process all along your life, even when you're a young adult. And we all have young adults amongst us, do we not? We all have young adults that are also starting off in life. And I want young people who are hopefully watching today to take some wisdom from the people who are getting gray hair and say, I don't have to do this sequential thing in life. I don't have to just grind it out and hit these mile markers before I can go to the next mile marker. Now you've got to be able to do some things simultaneously. So Ben, give us some of your wisdom and some of your experience. And again, all three of you gentlemen, we're enlightened, I think, very early in your lives. It's just like, just in Freedom Founders, we've just taken some of the best of the best and the wisdom we share with each other just to make that path maybe a little bit more open, a little bit easier to go through. What things would you share with the audience about your path to what's your next?
Well, David, first of all, thanks to you. And I'm grateful for some of your leadership in this group. And, I would really say for me that one of the critical moments in my process with Sandra was just coming to the realization that in order for me to build freedom into my life, I I had to step back to step forward a little bit. So you had encouraged us at a blueprint day that we were on with you and Candace that maybe we should consider cutting back one day a week of my practice. And when I came to Freedom Founders, I was really, as Greg would say, I was kind of tapped out. I didn't have, my cup wasn't full, and therefore I didn't feel like I had a lot to give. But once I kind of started to work on my own personal freedom, I found that it was kind of the forest for the trees kind of a situation where I couldn't see past my own nose, so to speak. In that I was so busy doing the business of dentistry and doing the dentistry and running a busy family life that I had no vision for my future. Not to even consider anything about my freedom plan. And now I took you up on that challenge, and I did cut back an extra day a week. So now I work 3 days a week, and I find that extra day a week is just, it's so revitalizing to me. I find that despite the fact that I was in a situation where I probably didn't really know what my horizon was as far as my practice of dentistry, despite the fact that our finances were in pretty good order at the time, I didn't feel like I knew where my future was. I certainly didn't feel like I had the freedom to step back, much less, see the light at the end of the tunnel as far as how do I step off this hamster wheel. And so I really feel like once I was able to take that extra day, now I have the freedom in my life to take on new challenges. Now I'm taking on new challenges of investing. I'm working with my kids on their investing. And, so then that brings in the whole concept of this legacy piece where, really it's not about passing on money to our heirs or our children. It's about passing on the tools to manage that money and really the tools to manage your freedom. Because ultimately at the end of the day, it's not about money. I think every one of us that's ever been on this financial journey probably started out thinking, okay, like you said at the beginning, David, we gotta get our financial house in order and create some security. But at the end of that marathon, we didn't really find that we were fulfilled. So, I find that the fulfillment comes in the freedom to choose what we do. And now, today I'm sitting in my practice, not because I have to be here, but because I enjoy being here 3 days a week. It's like a working retirement for me. So I don't begrudge going to work on a Monday morning anymore. And I can't say that was always the case. So thanks, David. I'm all in on the plan. So
Well, you and Sandra have really, affirmed and confirmed what, I had to figure out. And that is, we get more. And again, I'm not talking about lifestyle. I'm talking about probably the asset that we give up the most in our lives. And it's nothing we can buy back, after it's gone. That's time, right? We really, money, the wealth, what we do to create active income. Yes, it provides a lifestyle stability for us and our families, for sure. But I think there's always the problem when's enough. And you said it well. It's like at some point you want to take some chips off the table. Chips off the table could be, do I need to work, so many days a week to keep piling on more and more? Well, where's that going, right? Where is that? Where do I get to that actual mountaintop that I actually seek? And it's a lack of clarity for a lot of us. I certainly didn't have that clarity when I was younger in what was I driving for. And we talk a lot of times about the wake-up calls in our lives that can come from different avenues. It could be, a personal situation that happens to somebody in our family. It could be health. It could be, it could be a financial problem. All kinds of things can give us a wake-up call can change our priorities. But until we have something that causes us to step back and take a look at why are we doing what we're doing, right? Then it's hard to really to take accountability of that. Jim, I know for you, you grew up in a world where, your father was, in the financial world, the industry. So you got to kind of watch and see, a smart, wise father who was, a good steward of money and assets. And that's a good thing. But you and your lovely bride, Cinda, and your amazing family, got into being involved with a lot of mission work early on, I'd say, relatively early on. And I think you continue to encompass that in your life, while you're a hardworking guy, and you and Ben could walk away. I say walk away. You could sell your practices any day of the week that you want to right now, but you choose to stay in because it allows you to still be significant in one area. But you've also, to your next, you've also created these other avenues of where you're still remaining significant and purposeful in other areas. Give us your insights into how all this blends into your path to what's your next and how you see life going forward from here.
Well, I appreciate you asking me on here, David. I give you all the credit as a good friend and mentor that you are. I thank you for that. You've opened my life and my eyes to this alternative lifestyle that's been awesome. So thank you. I think I'll just talk about, since Greg and Ben so eloquently talked about, and I agree with what they talked about, kind of what happens up until this point. But once you get to those 5 freedoms of purpose and financial and health and time and relationships that you talk about in your book, which I did read, and it was very good, David, by the way. And also I'll add in, part of that is also for me is spiritual, is once you get to the point where you get that first freedom, the financial, which you've helped us get to, I think it allows you to take an assessment of your life, an assessment of your kids. For me, I got to take a deep breath and look at what I really wanted to do with life that I was kind of stifling because I was a dentist 5 or 6 days a week. And the thought of working 40 years and then starting to do this, to handle my dreams was suffocating, and it was depressing. So I used to watch a lot of people, what they did, what was their next, what were they doing? It didn't seem that great. They just kept working for what? And you're right. For me, it was about, it's really about legacy. It's about what's important. Now I can say no a lot more. I'm in way more control of what I do. I look at life with a wide scope. What do I really want to do? I read more. I'm a learner. I was kind of not doing that. The hamster wheel is a scary thing to pass down to your kids, really. And for me, I wanted to stop doing things I didn't want to do, and I never had really a vehicle to do that. And as you said, when you climb a mountain, what's the next mountain? What are you going to do about it? Who are you going to tell about it? And so for me, it was becoming, once you're successful, whatever people think that word is really moving from successful to significance. And how can I pass that on to my children? Leaving a legacy correctly. What do I want to focus on now? And so I read a lot more. I learn a lot more. I think about generations 1, generation 2 with my kids. Being more significant, meaning serving others, listening more, not having to take credit for everything, just more of a patience with my time and my life, being more selective in, I have a list, I have a list that's a not to do list, and I now have a never to do list, which is a new one. I just picked that one up. How can I invest in myself, my business, my capital, my legacy? Others is real important to me now. Obviously, with Freedom Founders, we can leverage other people. What are they doing? What's their next? How they do it. My exit from my practice is now on my schedule. Kind of a glide path, wherever, it's kind of fun. Trying to live a life of, and there's a book I read, but living a life of eulogy virtues versus resume virtues. And before getting the financial part taken care of, I didn't know what that meant. And you're right, my dad did very well in the stock market, but it was a life that you don't know till 40 years is up. Right. And hopefully that's going to work. And you taught us a new way, which has been liberating, and it's been awesome. And I appreciate that.
Well, thanks for your shares. We're talking about the book that is being launched February 23rd. What's your next? The Blueprint for Creating Your Freedom Lifestyle. And if you're listening today, I've got four of my really good friends, compadres and Freedom Founders. We're just on this journey together, and it's so much fun. But I want people to understand that this is not a book written for people that are well immersed down the road in their careers or even towards the end. I really wrote this book for all generations, and as you gentlemen have espoused very, very well, it's how can we give back to those next generations coming up. Jim, we all three have those generations coming up, right? We've got the kids, and then we got the grandkids. How can we sow into them some things that we've learned so that they don't, perpetuate the cycle, which I think to a great degree, society, other well-meaning people could be, even our parents, well-meaning parents, don't sometimes know they're trying to give the best to their kids, get the education and put on the suit and go to work and run that career for 40 years. Yeah. And, the old days of doing that and getting the gold watch retirement, those are far gone. And I think we have to, more so today than ever, and the generations that are entering the workforce, the career, the family force today have got to, I think, be in a position to maintain maximum adaptability, flexibility, be able to pivot quickly, because we see the massive changes that have happened just in the past few years, and I believe they're going to happen faster. So I believe in education, no doubt about it. I believe that people can become over-specialized today, though. And so even though you may find a passion in something you like to do, I'm for that. I am for that. But I want young people or people that are in mid-career not to wait and wait till you get things right before you explore other areas. You've got to, again, find some ways to do it at the same time so that as life changes, circumstances change, that you can pivot and move with it and not be afraid. Fear sets in so quickly, so many times, and stops us from trying to explore, because we think, well, what if I mess that up? Or, nobody else is doing that, or everybody else says I need to do it this way. It's like, you got to be a little bit contrarian today, I think, or it's easy to get left behind. So let me go back around one more time, and speaking about the younger generations, that we all have young adults in our lives, whether they're our own or those that we love to mentor and help. Jim, I'll just go back to you, because I know another thing that you've done in the last year or two, you've gone back to your alma mater in dental school, and you've been speaking to, I'm not sure if it's D3s or D4 level, but you've been teaching them what, not more how to memorize the Krebs cycle, but what have you actually been sharing with them that you feel like is something that you have the right to share? So that's a big thing too. It's like, well, are you credentialed to teach this stuff, Jim? I'd say all day long you are, sir. So what are you going back and giving to these young people who are, soaking things up from left and right today?
Well, that's really, I appreciate you letting me talk about that. Number one, when once you have a big bag of knowledge and you want to tell somebody about it. And what I learned in Freedom Founders, I was just like, I had to tell somebody, first my kids, then my best friend, Peter. And then I decided, I'm going to go back to the University of Michigan and just see if they'll let me come talk a little bit about business. Believe it or not, I was an economics major in undergrad, but I learned way more from Freedom Founders than I did in those years. I was allowed to come in and talk, and I was dumbfounded at what they didn't know and what they were going to come out to. Meaning they're going to come out with $300,000 of debt. They're going to come out having to get life insurance, disability, malpractice, a car payment, a house payment, maybe they're married, and their monthly nugget of what they had to satisfy was incredible. And I was concerned with what would happen. Would they be able to do it? Would they get stressed out like most dentists that I talked to? And we talked about different things that you've taught me, David. In your book, The Apprentice Model was another great book you wrote. We talked a little bit about different ways to do it. Of the 42 speakers that were on the docket to speak at University of Michigan, I was the only dentist. It was all wealth management people who obviously are still working. So kind of a oxymoron almost. They're teaching people, but they're not wealthy themselves. So and wealthy doesn't always mean money. It means having time to do what you want. And they asked me to come back. They asked me to come back again. I went back 5 times until COVID hit. So I decided to create something called the Smile Mentorship Institute, which basically is just, I come and talk about what I learned and what I know, and that there's another way. And for me, it's kind of easy because I live the whole Wall Street market side of that, which can be great, but can be very volatile and very scary. And most people will say to me, they just don't know what to do with their money. They don't have an avenue of how to invest it. And doctors and lawyers and dentists are smart, but they don't know what to do with their finances, and they're never taught that. When I walk in, I just ask them, hey, what was your favorite business class in undergrad or dental school? It's always 0. And I got scared. I mean, it's scary. And when you kind of have that knowledge that you could just tell somebody something real quick, and so, you know, I just kind of was kind of copying what you did, David, and I appreciate that that you gave me the, you know, the nudge on that.
Well, you took it by the hand, by the grip, and ran with it, and I'm really, but that's who you are. I mean, so it doesn't surprise me you did that. Ben, for you and Sandra, what is your next? I mean, you don't have to be specific in terms of, you know, the runway for the practice. I mean, you're in a good place where you're enjoying that, but in terms of outside the practice, you've got 2 boys that are adults, young adults now. What message are you giving to them, or any others that you're open to mentoring? What would be your like key advice if you had something to give those young people that are getting started right now?
Yeah, you know, Jim said it really well in his first little chat. Just how much investing in yourself is so important. And you know, we've started to invest with our kids, alongside our kids, and allow them to put in small amounts of money with us in different deals. But then not just, you know, don't just go and make the investment for them, but actually have them review the investment, have them decide if it's an investment that they think is a good investment and why. And, you know, my good friend Jim Rachor always says, don't hide the dynamite. And I think that's such a well said phrase when you're talking about legacy, because, you know, like I kind of alluded to earlier, it is so not about the money. It's about transferring the wisdom that we're gaining. And if we can do that, and I haven't cracked the code on how to do it perfectly or maybe even well yet, but the more that we can transfer to our children, and or our mentees, and you know, people that we want to challenge to do better, to do more, to be more free, you know, I think the better off they're going to be. And you know, I think Greg said it earlier, you know, the more we give back to people, the better we feel. And I think that contributes to just this idea of, you know, whether we feel significant or not. You know, once you're free, now what? Now you gotta do something that fills that bucket that up to now has seemed unable to be filled with money or with any other thing. And at the end of the day, I think you gotta fill that with meaningful things. I mean, all the money in the world is great, but it means nothing if you don't have relationship and you don't have legacy. So I don't know if that clearly answered the question, but I would just say just pour into your kids as much as you can, and take the training wheels off. Let them make some mistakes, because falling forward and making a mistake here or there, even with investing, even if they're investing $1,000 alongside mom and dad in an investment that they decided to do that turned out to not be a good one, is an opportunity for growth and learning. And I think taking this idea that you know, you need to live this flawless life is really backwards. I think we need to be given permission to make mistakes and to
Yes.
fail a little bit. And when we do that, we start to learn what not to do and what works. And it's actually so much more effective than just trying to be perfect all the time. So, yeah.
No, that's so well said. That's, you know, school has a way, formal education has a way of doing that to us, right? It takes our exploratory and curious nature and really just shuts that down, because you don't want to be called out for asking a quote dumb question, or you don't want to give the wrong answer, right? So what does it do? It shuts us down, and we quit testing. We quit jumping outside the comfort zone because we don't want to be wrong. I know for me is you know, going through school, I was fearful if I went outside, you know, the core courses, the core curriculum, right, that we had to take, all the sciences and math courses. If I went outside just to experiment, well, what if that caused me to get a B or heaven forbid, a C in a course. I can't risk it, right? Because I've got to be on this path. And what a sad way to live life, where you can't risk anything to explore. It just shuts us down. So I love what you said, Ben, about the permission to test. And I just call it testing. There's no failure. There's no mistake. Testing. I tested this, and the results I got back were this. The feedback I got were this. Either I'll try that again a different way, or I'll do more of it, or you know what? I don't think I'll do that again. Great. You learn that, but how would you know otherwise? You wouldn't, right? Greg, you and Jackie just sold your practice recently to, I think it's the ideal young doctor. It was just a God thing that came together at the right time. This young man is so appreciative of what you sowed into him. And one is just kind of not handing him. He had to put something into it, but he's now in control of a practice that he's very grateful. He's written you letters back about being so thankful and grateful. And I know he's one of those young people that is not, hey, I know it all. Leave me alone. Let me just have this thing and let me go run. He's going to do things his way, but he's also wise enough at a young age to look to people like you and Jackie and say, hey, I don't know everything. And I'm not talking about just the technical parts of doing his job. I'm talking about the bigger piece, Greg, that you and Jackie love to do, and that's sewing into him. So I know you continue to have some conversations with him. You're not in the practice with him every day, but you still converse with him as you have time open beyond just the business of the practice itself. What other proclamations would you give to him to help him and his wife and his family also be looking to their what's next earlier in their career and their family life than that long steed where we wait till we are ready to retire? What else will you help him with?
Well, it's funny you said that, because I just got off the phone with him the day before yesterday. He, it was a gift, and you have to put yourself in the right position for things to happen. As you know, that journey was a little challenging for a bit, and when it happened, it was meant to be the way it is. The things that him and I talk about, this young man's so good about dentistry, doesn't need my help, but what I try to help him with is the bigger picture in business, the bigger picture in life, how to control what you're spending at the moment and try to let your income grow without trying to stay up with it with your income. And these are the conversations we have all the time. He's smart enough to know he doesn't have all the answers, and he's willing to listen. And that is really a blessing on his part, that he's not that I have all the answers, but it's been really amazing to see him already in this short term putting out numbers that are close to what we were doing, which is so impressive. And this boy's going to just grow. And I wanted to digress real quick for a second, if you don't mind, David. We were talking about legacy, and Ben and Jim, you are my mentors, and just so impressed being on here with you both. In your book, David, which was so well written, read it this weekend, there's a line, and I'm going to botch it a little bit, when you talked about legacy, when you said legacy isn't what you leave them, it's what you leave in them. That is so beyond important. And the reason I say this is yesterday, our daughter and son-in-law were in town, and we were having this discussion. And more than anything, Freedom Founders, to me, what it is about creating an opportunity to have choices as you move forward. So as we're discussing with them, doing this, as the daughter's looking about not working, she's can do this on the side. It creates opportunity for them to look at life differently. If I could have learned this, I did dentistry 36 years ago. For 36 years, I could have been out many years ago. If I'd ever understood what passive income was, what did that mean? And that is what you, fortunately, when you came into my life and when I read the article, and that's what you've done. You have changed not just the end of our life, you've changed our retirement, our next, because you've created, by your knowledge, opportunities that we really would not have had. So all of that is really just amazing. And I think you put it so well together in your book. When I looked at this and I've read everything you've done, there's all one of, I just think this is such an awesome piece. And when you put it together the way you did, it just makes so much sense. So thank you for what you've done and for what you've given to everybody.
Well, Greg and Ben and Jim, you guys are the essence of why I do what I do. And I know you have the same thing in your lives. You have that next, that significance, that purpose. We're all doing that together. And it just, I love the fact that you're sowing back into other people, because that's what life is all about. It's all about, getting out and giving back to other people in ways that empower them to, as you said, Greg, very well, look at life differently. And so here's the challenge I have for people that are with us today. Here's the challenge I have for you. I want you to take a little bit of time and think about what are the barriers that are keeping you from looking at life differently. In other words, what's keeping you thinking that you have to do things a certain way for a certain period of time, act a certain way, do things sequentially, this order, this order, this order. What's holding you back? Now, here's a few thoughts. It could be just this is the way you were brought up. This is your mindset. Well-meaning people around you said, this is how you do it. This is how you live your life, and you don't think about retirement until you've got this and this done. Or is it a matter of time? You don't think you have enough time to consider or explore these other areas that you've got to keep your nose to the grindstone. I get that. I was that way too. I don't have time to explore, do other things. I've got to just keep the grindstone. Is it fear of making a mistake if you were to just deviate a little bit from your current path? Identify for yourself what it is that may be holding you back from exploring what's your next now, as opposed to waiting to that mystical someday retirement when you're in your 6th or 7th or 8th decade of life. Why don't we all start exploring now and looking at life differently? So got to figure out, first and foremost, what is it that's holding you back right now? If we can identify that, then we can start to look at ways to break through that. That's your challenge for today. Gentlemen, Dr. Greg Linney, Dr. Ben Jensen, Dr. Jim Rachor, thank you guys so much for being here and sharing your wisdom, your reflection on your lives, and certainly what's next for you.
Thank you, David. Appreciate you.
Thanks, David. Appreciate you too.
Thank you.